Hey, Coach. Yeah, obviously, you said on teleconference earlier that you might have some update on Rocket. Any news?
Yeah, I don't have any more news at this point. Obviously, he hadn't practiced. He's not in practice today either, so that that would limit him at best in the game, regardless of what we find out. But I don't think it'll be a lengthy injury either way. But we wanted some different guys to look at him, and so that's what we're doing. And so we'll know something definitely um, by this afternoon what is going on. I'm sorry, I thought we might know something now, but we don't. Last second I checked my phone to see if I got any calls on it. So I wish we would know a little bit more, but he hadn't practiced this week. I don't think it's a lengthy injury at all, but I can't be 100% sure about that until I find out what he's been told here today.
Dominic's still wearing the brace on his knee, but I believe he's been obviously cleared to play without it. Is that just something for him for a precaution? And how much does that limit him, a brace like that?
I don't think he feels like it limits him too much. It's up to him whether he wants to wear it or whether he doesn't. I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't wear it. Assuming this weekend he would probably have a much bigger role. But he had some success with it on in scrimmages, and ran long runs and things of that nature. So that really at this point is just left up to him.
And should we expect to see Antonio Greer this week?
Yes, I mean he's practiced. He practiced partially. Indy and things of that before the Western Carolina game, but he's practiced all week. So they've cleared him to do everything, and he's been good over the last 2 days. So, and he's practicing today, so I expect him to be available.
Thanks, Coach.
Otis. Coach, is there anything in particular that Marquise Gomes needs to improve on to get maybe more action in the passing game?
Well, I think he's got to understand the offense a little bit better, and he's getting better at that thing, at those things. Understanding what he's doing is going to let him play faster. But we think he is a threat. Obviously, we didn't throw the ball a whole lot to the tight ends last week, but that certainly isn't a plan because he's talented as well as Luke and a lot of guys. A lot of guys we have. Tyrus Washington, we feel like we can throw the ball to, but I think his overall, and he's had a good week this week, so I would anticipate his play amping up a little bit.
Coach, I'll go. My Bulldog must have liked your answer or not liked it one. I'm not sure which. Thanks.
Who's that? Your Bulldog? Yeah.
My Bulldog, yeah. I don't know if he liked it or didn't like your answer, but he's letting you know about it.
Oh, he is? Okay. Well, my Lucy's
I'm sorry. 14. I thought you could hear him bark.
Can't hear, though.
Jackson.
Coach, when Isaac spoke with us yesterday, he talked about playing quarterback in high school and not really taking really any receiver reps until he got to the college ranks. I'm curious, does he have any, traits, intangibles that, can make it kind of obvious that he's a former quarterback?
Well, I'm assuming quarterbacks would have to have good hands, and he does now. I mean, of course, Andrew Armstrong made a catch yesterday at practice. That was pretty incredible as well. But, I talked to him the other day about how proud I was for him coming from D2 and performing at a high level. And obviously we love him and all those type things. I said, who offered you out of high school? And he said, basically nobody, Coach, and really a cool story because what a wonderful kid as well. But he's a big athlete that works extremely hard. So I would assume if he went to linebacker and he wanted to get his body linebackerish, that he would be able to play that as well. He's just a talented guy that earns everything he gets because he's a hard worker.
Hey Sam, I mean, obviously you don't want Rocket to ever miss any time, but how good do you feel about the depth you have there if he is out for a little while?
Well, I love our depth. I think R-Dub's really good, and all of them. AJ and Damo. I keep going back to 2 years ago we had the same guys on the team, and Damo was the starter. Later in the season, we kept trying to get him more and more carries. Sometimes we did, sometimes we didn't. But when we did, he was very successful. And so I feel really good. You never want to lose a player for a game or two or whatever it may be. But that room is loaded with really good players, and we like Isaiah as well. So he got some carries last week, looked pretty good to me, and very physical runner. So Jimmy's done a nice job of recruiting that room, so we feel very confident in that room. If Rocker wasn't able to play, that we'd be fine.
I wanted to ask a couple things about Hudson. I guess he's played corner, safety, and now nickel for you. So unless you want to move him to something else, I don't think he's run out of places to play. But just what do you thought about his versatility and willingness to do that and adapt and all that?
Well, it's hard. I mean, even though you're playing secondary, they're all different. They're different techniques, obviously different assignments. To be able to do that says a lot about him. To be able to do that willingly says more about him. And a quick story, we had told him that he was going to go in on the third series, and the defense went 2, 3 and outs, and HUD goes to Coach Woodson and says, hey, they've only been out there 6 plays. I don't know if they've really had enough plays to be getting in the groove of the game and all this kind of stuff. So that's just kind of who he is, and he's an ultimate team guy and been as valuable as anybody we've had to the team.
I'm not smart enough to remember or I guess follow it. Which series did Hudson go on the fourth series or the fourth series then?
I believe they just put him in on the third series. I think they said, no, that's what we told you. If I'm correct, I think he did go in on third series. That was the plan in our morning staff or our evening staff meeting on Friday night. So I don't know. I can't remember.
But he was just being unselfish.
He was. I mean, nobody does that. I mean, not many. I wouldn't. They told me third series. I don't care if it was 2 plays them guys got out there. It's the third series. Put me in. But he did have that conversation. I love the kid. Love a lot of them, but he's a very unselfish guy. Could have went in the tank when we told him that, hey, we're not going to send you out there. You are a starter in our mind, but we're not going to send you out there first. He could have, a lot of kids go in the tank on you. This guy's going, I don't think they've had enough reps to get, acclimated to the game quite yet.
I guess just what does that say about him? Attitude, mental, all that stuff.
Everything. I mean, now it also tells you that he's a mature guy that understands, but everything.
Alyssa. Muted.
You act like I haven't done this before. Okay, so here we go. Can you comment a little bit about what you guys are going to do for Alex and Ryan and Chris? I know Chris and Alex were here and the first time you goes around, but you're going to put the 3 and the 15 and have their initials down on the field this season. And just, that was the way that you guys are going to honor them this year.
Yeah. And then I think we're going to have Chris's family as honorary captains and things of that nature. And I think you said what we're going to do and with the numbers and things of that nature. But certainly, it's great to get older, but as you get older, things happen in life that are, you go through, and obviously not near what the parents have gone through, but it was just our way of saying, hey, we respected your son, and just our way of letting them live through their legacy on the field a little bit.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, Sam, I'm looking at your linebacker room. You came out of spring and looked like Pooh and Greer were kind of with the ones the most. And then now Pooh had the camp injury, Greer had the camp injury. And it with the ones, it was Spence and Thomas yesterday during fastballs. I just wondered maybe kind of what that room has been looking like for you.
Yeah, I think Jaheim Thomas has been the most consistent player for us there in the linebacker room. Obviously, you mentioned the injuries that we've had. Obviously Pooh was the guy that and he still is, but he's been beat up. He's been hurt. And of course, unfortunately, he won't be able to play in the first half Saturday. So it's a little bit linebacker, honestly, has been a little bit like the O-line room where, man, you wish you could find guys that just put them in a spot and put them next to somebody that they played with the majority of the time, but just injuries hasn't quite let us do that. And the other part of that is that we found Spence. We've Crook's gotten a lot of reps, and with Greer coming back now, that should help us. That we'd feel good every bit about 5 guys, and I think in the long run it'll all help us. I would like to have 2 guys sitting out there side by side that's played, together, but I don't know if we'll be able to do that until maybe week 3 when Pooh gets off maybe the second half of Saturday's game.
Right.
But I think it has helped us overall.
Is one guy in particular or one spot call defense for you? Like Pooh when he's out there and then.
Well, the Mike backer a lot of times will do that, but not necessarily in our defense. We'll have both of them reiterate the call. And of course, you get it to the front, get it to the back end, and then everybody, we're actually working on a little bit of our home crowd noise for defense a little bit today and all day tomorrow for that communication.
Okay, my last thing, you mentioned Monday that you were sending in a number of plays regarding penalties. I wonder if you got any clarifications on some things that maybe we didn't see that got called that would help.
Yeah, and a couple of them, to be honest with you, we showed to the team because they needed to know the interpretation of the officiating crew from the SEC. So you don't necessarily send in the penalties to say, well, I'm right and you're wrong. You find out the explanation of why the call was made. There was a few of them that they felt like that, maybe shouldn't have been called and things of that nature. And I guess if you did every single play, you'd find some that they should have called too. You know what I mean? So, right. But the one, let's say when John Morgan got the personal foul for hitting the quarterback low, mine was, I felt like he was held and thrown into the quarterback. And the interpretation was when you take that edge, when you turn that edge, it's really your responsibility to stay high on the quarterback. And then we showed this Clemson quarterback sliding. Obviously, we showed that to KJ because he was short, and we showed it to the team because that's a dead ball at that point. And even though the personal foul came after that, Duke still retained the football. We had in our first scrimmage, we had kind of an identical deal. It was a late hit out of bounds on 4th down. The penalty was put in force, but the offense, it was on the offense that the second team offense came back out on the field. We talked about the slide because basically when a quarterback starts to slide, you've got to avoid him at all costs. And even if you're airborne, at that point trying to tackle him, you got to take your head out of it. You got to throw your arms out. I mean, you got to avoid him at all costs. And if your helmet hits him at all, that's going to be a personal foul. So we did show the team that, and they were just learning moments from us. I thought our game was well officiated on Saturday, but we did learn some things about rule interpretation and just exactly how they see it on those two circumstances.
Scotty.
Hey, Sam, you mentioned earlier this week wanting to get Tyrone Broden going a little bit. I'm curious how his week's been and maybe what do you want to see more of with him?
Well, we played him more. We played him more with the ones this week. I think he's had a heck of a 2 days. He did such a nice job as a gunner on the punt team. I mean, just a fantastic job Saturday. We need to get him involved. Because he's the separation of the wide receivers is not like this. It's close, and he's a guy that's played Division I football and done a nice job there. So we need to amp him up, and the only way you can do that is put him with the guys and see if you can feel good about it. And that's what we've done. And he's had a good week.
I know we talked a lot about Jaden Johnson since it feels like late in camp, but when you have a guy that plays like he did in an opener, kind of takes his camp to a game setting, what do you think that does for his confidence?
I think a lot. I hope it does. What you're always concerned about is it happens, and then you become content with, well, I showed you I could do it. We've obviously talked to Jaden about some of those things too. And I don't think there's any way. I think he likes where he's at. I think he knows that he can improve a lot, but with picking the pass, had a lot of open field tackles. Obviously, the fumble that he caused, and he went into camp, maybe a 1, maybe a 1B, whatever it is, and came out as as good a safety as we have. So a lot of good things happen with him. He's always had the talent. His mind just allowed him here in the last 6 months, 7 months, to go ahead and let that body go do what it always could do.
Great.
Hey, Coach, Kent State's got 5 new first-year starters on the offensive line. I was just curious, you were an offensive line coach for 25 years on the FBS level. Have you ever had an instance like that where you had to break in 5 brand new guys? And if so, like, what are some of the challenges that you run into in a situation like that?
I have not. Now, I've had a lot of jobs where they were 5 new starters for me, but not necessarily for the team. Well, there's a lot of challenges because, it takes you a little while to figure out who's tough, who you can depend on, things of that nature. That's as offensive line, that's key. Who's your communicator? Who's your leader? Where you want to put him? Do you have a center that can play? Can you protect the edge? All those type things go into it, and you just start piecing it in. And obviously, it takes a little while. And I look for them to their O-line to become better and better. They do have some skill and some talent, and then those guys haven't played, because you said it, but then with them being transfers and things of that nature. So it's a lot easier to bring 1, maybe 2 in on O-line, but bringing in, a lot that are starters becomes difficult, and then they don't know their coach and all that kind of stuff. But I thought they did a nice job last week. I look for them to play much better than they did last week. But there's a lot of challenges there, and to me, they've done a nice job of coaching them.
On your end, with the week 1 game, obviously you'd expect everybody to be amped up and excited and everything. But with the way the score came out, and then looking at Kent State's score against UCF, is there anything extra you feel like you need to say? I mean, you got a pretty mature bunch, but is there anything extra you need to say to make sure that the focus is right?
Well, I talked to them about yesterday after practice. I mean, are we going to be a team that needs to be surprised? I mean, or, if you just look at college football the first week and what happened, I mean, are we going to have to learn a lesson from us not playing our best ball, or are we just going to go play our best ball and play against ourselves and not worry about who we're, the opponent? I obviously know you're going to get amped up more against a name, whoever the name may be, school, somebody in the SEC, than possibly you would against Western Carolina. I mean, I understand that. But at the same time, if you don't get ready to play, you don't prepare, you're going to get beat. And we're going to be one of those teams that everybody in the country is talking about. And I just kept asking them, do we need to be surprised? Do we need to be taught a lesson? Or are we just going to go practice hard? I wasn't particularly happy with the way that the complete practice went yesterday, and I talked to him about that after practice.
Thank you, Coach.
Coach, a lot of you just mentioned a lot of the challenges with the O-line, communications, leaders. I'm wondering how your O-line's looking this week in terms of in practice with those things.
Yeah, I thought the ones looked really good yesterday. The problem, it's not, it depends on how you look at it. But, I'd like to find 5 guys that this is our left tackle, this is our right tackle, this is this. I would like to find that and then be able to play, right now up to around 8 guys. I would like to do that. We haven't been able to do that just simply because we've been beat up here, beat up there, things of that nature. Now, are the 5 guys that started last Saturday our 5 best? Heck, I don't know. It is nice to have Brady back this week. But consistency of those guys, you want to find your 5 best and let them go play. And then hopefully you've got up to 8. We're still not there yet. We're not healthy enough to be there at this point. And it's frustrating a little bit. However, I do think it'll help us down the road, but it is a little frustrating. And we're not going to have 1s and 2s in a game. So I think part of my frustration is we have some guys on the 2s that don't have any experience. And so at times in practice, it doesn't look quite as good. And I get frustrated with that because our experienced guy might be beat up a little bit. So I think we're going to be fine. I think in the long run, it's going to help us, but that has been a little somewhat frustrating.
And then last one, you had a lot of freshmen that contributed late and played their first game last week. Just how are they looking and responding in practice this week?
Yeah, I was proud of them. I think, anytime you can get more guys in the game, which we all know who's followed us since I've been here, we haven't had an opportunity to do that much, maybe twice. I think Auburn last year and maybe Pine Bluff before that. And the rest of it is we're holding on to everything we have, so it is fun. I think it's good for team morale. Those things. It's good to get somebody out there on a Saturday. And is he as good as what you thought in practice, or is he better? Whatever the case may be. So I thought it was exciting to get that. We had guys like John Hill and some guys been around here a while. Kyle Thompson that hadn't played, and really was excited to get them in there. And they all played pretty darn good. They played extremely hard.
Thanks, Coach.
Appreciate you, Coach.
All right, guys. Have a good day.